This, my friends, is a game called Hellpoint. Spawn in a sci-fi world where your goal is to collect information for an AI overlord. Learn about the space station you're trapped on. Discover the truth about the black hole you're stranded inside. Demons, gods, and aliens all compete to see who will rule this new world. Hellpoint is an extremely ambitious Souls-like that has a lot going for it. Very cool weapons, both guns and magic, seamless co-op that doesn't require cutting in and out, all that plus its narrative can keep your attention for weeks. Sadly, it has two major problems that really keep people from getting into it. The first being it has an unfinished wiki. Yeah, a Souls-like with convoluted quests doesn't have a finished wiki. Finding all the secrets is a bit of work. And the second issue is hit detection. When you attack an enemy, you feel nothing. Your weapons simply move through them, dealing damage with no major impact for the player to feel. This is the biggest flaw in the gameplay, even though there are so many good things in other places. Just that one change and you had golds, but sadly it never happened. Regardless, me and my brother jumped into co-op to make our way through a full 100% of Hellpoint. This includes all 3 endings, all bosses from both base game and DLC, collecting every last gold coin, and of course, completing all 42 Steam achievements. Get ready, folks, because this is 100% of Hellpoint and its DLC. To begin, we are formed into the Spawn, a life form that at least looks human for the most part. We're given a healing injection, which is an instant no-nonsense heal. By sharing my code with my brother, he simply selects the same code on his side and joins up. I stay as the main Spawn, while he is blue to signify that this isn't his world. Co-op works how it should. He progresses alongside me, collecting anything and everything except for key items that mainly get used for opening doors. His own world does not progress at all while he's in mine, but there isn't really anything second player gets left out of. After collecting the ceremonial dagger, I met my end at the hands of a large knight. In Hellpoint, player 2 can be revived, but if player 1 ever dies, you both restart at a checkpoint. Furthermore, when player 1 is killed, a clone of you will be created. This clone will wander around near where you died and try to defeat you when you get close. Typically, they never are much of a threat unless other enemies manage to join in. Leveling up works as it does in any Souls-like. You collect souls, which are called axions here, and at a checkpoint you can convert those axions into stats. Health, stamina, mana, load, and then your 4 damage stats. Okay, time for the first boss fight. Archon's Slayer is a dark mage. Not all that threatening for a first boss, even though she can catch you off guard with explosive waves every now and again. The dagger uses very little stamina, letting me spam stabs as she can't do much to stop me. Defeating the Archon Slaver. Speaking with the AI Overlord, we are told that he created us to learn. We must find out as much as we can and bring this info back to him. Killing bosses, reading notes, and doing various other tasks like just finding new checkpoints grants you data that shows up in the top right under your Axion amount. He then grants us access to the Omni Cube, a tool for various tasks like giving you a light, teleporting you back to checkpoints, and a couple more unique things you can find later on down the road. At last, we can finally make our way to the observatory, home base, if you will. At a main station, we can upgrade and slot a conductor to our weapon. You never ever get weapon upgrades in this game. Instead, you'll use axions to upgrade a conductor. That boosts your damage and can be slotted on any weapon you want, letting you use anything in the entire game while just upgrading maybe 1 or 2 items. Actually, it's an awesome idea. Down below is a machine that can upgrade our healing item, and then we open the observatory revealing open space, void of anything. No planets, no ships, no nothing. We are alone. Well, off to go find some information. Blocking our way into the primary section of this space station is the Celestial Beast, an alien plus lion kinda creature. He jumps at you with claws or uses these quick tendrils to smack you around. Once again, I had my dagger's quick attacks to decimate his health. Blocking with a shield is quite helpful, though typically it's easier to dash behind him while sticking in close. Dashing is how you dodge when locked on. It shortens the lag time of you not being able to control your character, makes dodging a little tougher, but allows for much more aggression and precise gameplay. Or you could press double dash to instead dodge like normal. Defeated the Celestial Beast. Synchronizing this breach is important, as that allows us to freely teleport from here to your main hub. You get a limited amount of synchronizers, so selecting the right spots is key. We actually started this run back during the Halloween season, which adds a few random oddities to the game, one of those being a UFO here that can craft special armor and weapons on theme with the spooky season. Collecting a health module, we slot that into our body slot for increased HP. Then we need to choose between two separate paths. We selected Ikari Walkways, because the better heal we like is much quicker to collect here. It's in this location that we collect our first daring effigy, along with the regenerative nanobots. Arguably the best heal in the game, as it recovers HP for a short time rather than just healing, which means it can heal you and then continue to heal you through attacks. Not bad if you need to tank for a few hits. It was here that we decided to polarize our world. What this does is consume a daring effigy and make the game harder. Kind of like how Dark Souls 2 lets you upgrade an area to NG+. This instead upgrades the entire world to another level of difficulty. And let me tell you, this is no minor increase. We died about 15 times through the next section to demons that really don't mess around. Still, it's well worth the pain, as you get far more axions to upgrade with. Something really interesting we were able to complete was a horde mode. In the top left, you'll see this weird compass shape. This is the space station mechanic that is a tad confusing, and I don't fully understand it myself. Basically, it's a clock or similar to a sundial, and as the clock moves, the space station will line up with the black hole outside. Be at the right place at the right time, and special doors will open up, or even some special encounters are created. Generally, if the clock is lit up, you know to look around for orange walls that indicate special fights. These always reward you with some rare item like armor, weapons, or even just a key that opens up a nice shortcut. Eventually, we made our way to the artillery, a large robot with an enormous shield and plasma gun. Safe to say we died a couple of times, as the extra difficulty was spiking his damage through the roof. I mean, out of nowhere, he just caught you once and that was it. The fight is relatively simple, as you want to get him off the top floor as quickly as possible. Avoid his gunshots, while backing away when he swings the shield or gun around at you. Our damage was now terrible due to the effigy, but we had a trick up our sleeve. All weapons in Hellpoint upgrade as you use them, unlocking special abilities like passive buffs or even skills. My current skill on the dagger was Backstab. When behind an enemy, you can use it to deal triple damage. More than effective, as you can imagine. But question is, how do you get your mana back since all skills use some mana? Well, it's actually pretty easy. Attacking with melee builds up both your mana and your heals, so you actually don't get very many healing items at all, but you can get them back during fights. We don't get much back right now, as there are items to boost the amount gained later on in the game, but it's enough to get the job done. Defeated the artillery. After exploring for a while, we headed back to the observatory and made our way up. This is a platforming section that is entirely optional, though you will want to go up here, as there are a few gold coins, a healing upgrade, and the bragging rights to tell you my brother fell to his death. Well, I did not. A bit petty of me to mention it, but that's what happened. Once through several purple tentacle creatures and multiple hallways, we met with this second Archon Knight. There are 4 of these guys hidden around the world. They don't get any major increase from the difficulty bump, it seems. By now, I was using a hatchet. This thing can be thrown for not great damage, but it's very safe. Also uses minimal mana, though the demon staff my brother had upgraded was putting in far more work with this fire wave ability. Ultimately, a very easy encounter to get past. Not longer after, we stumbled into a dark underside of the station. It was here that we found a Master Chief from Halo reference with this goofy looking helmet, as well as a monolith. Using the purple pylon will take you into the underworld, a mirrored version of the normal world where you are timed. Though it's not really all that strict if I'm being honest. Once in the underworld, you're able to speak with the 3 main bosses. Only when inside the underworld will they talk to you, as usually they just attack. This god asks you to go kill Thespian for him. Essentially, 3 main bosses are all fighting over control of the station. If you go kill the red alien creatures that are on the outskirts of the observatory, you can find 10 fragments of Thespian. Bring all 10 back to the large Cretan and we're granted the Red Prophet Hand, a powerful magic weapon that can fire a long-range laser. I didn't really use guns or magic in this run, but from previous runs I've done, I could tell you they're quite powerful and very fun. Not quite ready for this boss we knew would be tough, I farmed out enough axions to get a plus 13 conductor, which should be enough for us to get past the consumer, a large red creature that can be really troublesome on higher difficulties. Let's just say my first attempt was not great. The problem is he has two of these minions in the arena that need to be dealt with. Throwing axes were decent for keeping both of them at bay, while the big guy was on my brother. For this fight, I decided to upgrade the railguard, a sort of curved arm blade that is extremely quick. Additionally, whenever you fight Thespian, there's a weird status they almost always build up. It's this mind debuff where your view is distorted. Creatures swirl above you as you either have an extremely zoomed in camera or a very zoomed out camera. It's actually super helpful in boss fights as usually it zooms out so you can see the fight better. Though definitely confusing until you figure out that this is a status effect or debuff applied to you. The problem with this boss is he typically one-shots you. That plus his huge sweeping attacks means backing way up is the best bet. Then rush in for a hit or two when he's idle. Oh, and his arena is just small enough for you to feel cramped. I felt as if the heavy on this blade was really nice here as it hits 3 times quickly. That, and a lot of dashing back and forth, led to a second try victory. Defeated the consumer. Past this major victory, we can speak with a strange Indian man. By sitting next to the fire with him, we progress his very important questline. Interacting with an underworld monolith leads to the third Archon Knight. These guys are not meant to be major obstacles, more or less just hidden content, as they can be damaged with a weapon that doesn't even have a conductor on it. And if you have one on, well, he's only a couple hits from death. Reaching this point means we have access to the second bridge key, letting us return and open up Sown District, an area where we first find the Architect, although he won't speak to us at this time. Congregators block our next meetup point with him, though they're probably the toughest early game boss. 2 golden figures cast powerful magic that either track you or build up radiation to slowly drain your health. Slowly is being generous, as it drains pretty quick. Also, there's a little jank to it with projectiles going through walls from time to time. Safe to say we died countless deaths here. With the railguard upgraded, I had this spin ability that came in handy. I would bait the attention of the mace fellow while my brother had the staff wielder. Using pillars in the arena to block projectiles gave me just enough time to spin forward into him, as it lunges a great distance and isn't all that hard to back out of, since it starts and ends so quickly. We were, however, running into a low health problem. Even when upgraded, you still need to attack to get your max heals. With only 2 available before each attempt, there isn't a lot of room for mistakes. This leech effect, which is how you get your healing back, is just super weak. You really need a module to increase it, but we don't have it yet. What ended up working was the 2 bosses switched targets. So while behind a pillar, I was safe from the staff wielder and could easily melee the mace fellow, taking him out. 2v1 sounds great, but my brother just happened to die. And healing another player costs half of your HP, which I don't even have. So we just gotta finish this one off alone, I guess. Not a problem. This is the weaker of the 2 golden duo, thankfully. Defeated the Arisen Congregators. The Architect will now speak with us for the first time. Aside from having a really cool looking armor set, he's been roaming this space station for a while now, trying to find a way off the doomed world. He has located Earth, but there's no way to leave with so many security measures in place. We will need to help him find parts to repair the interface. This is one of the several requirements in order to get the true ending. This game is very hidden and requires completing all of the extra side areas you might not even find on a normal playthrough. In this same area with the Architect, you can find your first of what I think are 3 special enemies. A very alien-looking monster that sits in this room waiting for you. They are really tough and kinda difficult to find. Creepy looking, and what's even weirder is they don't drop anything. Just an enemy that's supposed to scare you, I guess. Back on the bridge, we can ignore both side paths and instead head down the middle. Up an elevator, you can find several stations where codes need to be input. This is tricky, as you need to find several codes hidden on walls throughout the game. Once you have the code, you can insert them here and they'll move the array of pillars to focus energy towards specific areas. We modified Tower 2 and 4 with their respective codes, though we'll need the compass to be active before we can head to those locations. Near the start of the game, we can use newfound credentials to enter the Arisen's domain, a golden area of pure pyramid-shaped buildings filled with magic casters and alien lions. It is here, behind a hidden wall, where we can find the ever-so-important Leech Enhancer. Once equipped in the body module slot, you gain much more energy when dealing melee damage, which means we have twice the mana and healing gained during combat. Easily one of the best items in the entire game, and something we always make sure to equip. Since our clock was getting close to lining up, we headed back to where the architect was and moved into Zone District. Through some confusing hallways, you can make your way towards a unique door, only open due to the tower codes we input before. Inside is the first Archon Knight. The one you fight as a tutorial boss isn't part of the core 4, so there's still one more to find after this. Here is the most difficult one to find, as it's the only required tower for 100%. We mopped the floor with him in seconds, earning the Archon Spear blueprint, letting us later craft the best weapon in the game. Arguably, of course. And behind this boss is an additional reward, the Blood Ritual Heal. This heals both you and another teammate up to full, effectively granting us double the heals because of co-op teamwork. There are these crafting stations you can find in a few spots that let you craft various weapon blueprints you can find. It's kind of odd where they put these, to be honest, but they let you craft a lot of the enemy weapons and armor that isn't just dropped. They're called replicators, and there's actually some crazy good stuff from these, though we couldn't quite craft the Archon Spear just yet. Back where we first met the Indian fellow, you can find this Sanity Puppet. This goes in your Mind module slot. We both feel that this equip slot is mostly useless. The other one has multiple good upgrades that you want to use but can't use all of, while this one doesn't ever have anything that good. It's up here on a cliff where we can also find some random gnome that has to be an Easter egg, as well as the Dark Souls reference with a bonfire-looking object. Alright, so guarding the library and our way forward is the Praying Hostess, a thespian female with this very deadly curved blade. She isn't all that tough, but will catch you if you're not being all that careful, like I was doing. For this fight, I was using one of the most fun weapons in all of Hellpoint. It's a double-sided pole blade that buffs itself with fire damage. It also happens to have a cool spinning run attack that hits like 9 or so times in 1 second. This lets it fully refill your health and mana with one activation. Only downside is that it does eat your stamina. I always found a shield to be useful for this lady as she attacks several times in a row, leaving you little room to dodge twice, even if you're fast enough. Defeated the Praying Hostess. Exploring the library is important, as several open codexes grant lore that also counts for data. You will also find the OmniCube Quantum Light. This reveals invisible walkways that hide secret equipment. Anytime you see these little black or purple bugs hovering around somewhere, you can bet there's a path. Though we wouldn't find any of those at the moment. Finally, we had the right gear in our possession to face Uthos, the Ashenborn, the large demon from before, except he's not doing much talking this time around. And this is probably the best fight in the game. It's a gigantic arena with more than enough room for both players to move around. This guy makes you use the extra room too, as he calls down meteors, calls forth geysers with his stomps, and does his best to burn you with fire. We were doing very little damage, as when it comes to the 3 main gods or primary bosses, they aren't meant to go down easily. Specifically, when you bump up difficulty, they have loads of health. Swapping between retreating and rushing depending on who had the aggro was as good a plan as any. Kept us out of attack range and made dealing damage easy peasy. Avoiding giant thrown discs can be especially challenging, and if you get hit at all, it's probably game over. We coordinated our heals so that each one would heal both of us. You need to be near-ish to the radius of the casted circle, which was honestly a really fun mechanic to work with. Several minutes went by as we kept up pressure. Probably not the best idea for both of us to use fire on a fire boss, but at least they were both really solid weapons. Oh, and these thrown hatchets might not do much, but they do keep chipping away at him. I enjoyed that ability a lot. Answered the challenge of Uthos the Ashenborn. With that boss defeated, we officially reach over 50% data collection. This is when a new NPC appears in the observatory. Speaking with him will grant you access to 2 separate areas, and thus the DLC is now available. The first step is entering the blue sun, which converts our current black hole into a blue dimension. The lore on this is pretty sparse and convoluted, so don't expect me to know too much about how this is supposed to work. Now heading back to the Thespian Zone, we can make our way to a small ship docked on the side. This ship will take you to the Gehenna prison. While I had played Hellpoint a few times in the past, this was my very first run through this part of the DLC. Basically, the DLC added in 2 new zones. One is this prison, which takes you to a secure facility just outside the space station. The second zone is somewhere else entirely, and neither are connected at all as far as I know. This section of the DLC is the best part of the game. Very cool theme where all these monsters and evil space creatures have escaped from lockup. On the bottom floor, there are all kinds of monsters to clear out, as well as an NPC that just stands here doing nothing. Never did figure out why he exists. In the back is an improved Leech Enhancer. If you thought the normal one granted you infinite health and mana back, well, this bad boy is a whole new world. One melee hit gives you as much energy as you need. It's an insane boost that I don't know how you play without. After, we needed to make our way through rafters across this large chasm. All kinds of new creatures blocked our way, especially these giant brutes with exploding gauntlets. They were a primary encounter to watch out for. After clearing a horde room, we collected the Remnant Greatsword. Okay, this thing is sick, right? So we gotta use it. Spoiler alert, it unbelievably sucks. It just deals no damage for some reason, even though the moveset is awesome. With my Twin Blade fully upgraded, it unlocked an amazing AoE that completely blew away everything. Even went through walls. Well, a special one of those gauntlet enemies that was much larger ate right through my damage and one-shot me, which really sucked, because the run back to this spot is abnormally long. Luckily, our second trip through, we had a stroke of luck. Yes, our new weapon did suck, but the brute got frozen in place, unable to move out of his little hallway. This gave me time to revive my brother and defeat the beast with such insanely low damage. Ta-da! We defeated the Alpha! Well, don't we feel accomplished? I guess he was a mini-boss of sorts, which explains his damage at least. Nearing the end of this prison is a palace. Why does a prison need a palace unless something extremely dangerous has been locked away? Strange masked guards walk the halls. Mysterious fan blade wielding warriors stand guard in various rooms. This place is clearly a gigantic holding cell, but what on earth for? Well, after collecting various keys and opening up shortcuts, we finally found a large dining room with a hallway at the end, which of course led into a boss fight with His Hideous Majesty Ramil. Now, I would like to mention that bosses don't have near as much health on the normal difficulty. We felt the insane buff was fair since we're in co-op after all and it's not that hard to find time to heal. Surprisingly, there aren't too many things to look out for here. Yes, she deals a lot of damage and you need to heal after taking any hit at all, but for the most part, you can dash backwards when any melee attacks start up, as they're all combos and give you enough time after each is over. The worst attack is an AoE where blood pools cover the ground. Stand in them and you take loads of damage, but also standing in them heals the boss, which means they're an absolute must avoid. At the time, I had on this sword with insane leech rating and a ranged attack, so even though it was weak, hurling blades would keep that health bar moving down and get aggro off my brother when needed. It also has a double attack for its heavy, which is very nice when the boss looks away. The most fun part of this was being like, oh hey, you got hit? Well, back up into my heal just as it goes down. It is a really great heal for co-op that both helped us out a lot and added some strategic gameplay. Eventually, we managed to pull off a first try victory, even though it was very close multiple times. Defeated Her Majesty. With the DLC Part 1 completed, you might think this area is done with. Well, not quite. You see, those fan blade enemies are elite guards known as the 7 Deadly Sins. They guard a specific part of the palace and will respawn after a little while. The only true way to kill them for good is to defeat each of the 7 in a specific order. My brother did a lot of research to figure this out, and it didn't quite work right away either. Ends up, if he attacked them at all, the puzzle would break. So player 1 needs to kill each of the 7 in the correct order without resetting to the checkpoint. When done correctly, you earn an achievement. Apologize, you were born in my world. But that's not all. With all 7 guards dead permanently, a small door in the main boss's arena will open up. Donning the Halo helmet for some oxygen lets you traverse a small section outside in space, leading to a strange being who has been crucified. Tell him no, you are not one of them. Then, he will grant you the Archon Greatsword. You can also choose to kill him after, though I kept him alive. Bro, I don't even have a clue what the lore and story is here. either. All I know is we get one frickin' cool looking sword. It's a two-handed weapon, which only exists in the DLC. Swings really fast for a big weapon and has no issue killing whatever you swing it at. Once again on the bridge, we head straight and into the elevator, this time taking it to a different floor, where we can climb up some stairs to meet with this random guy. We always called him the blacksmith, as you can trade boss souls to him in exchange for powerful weapons. Kind of out of the way a bit, but the weapons are really neat. It's at this point that the architect moves to our observatory. He claims that he's been repairing the station for many years, but there are still two things he hasn't been able to find that will need to escape. The main power needs restored, and a patch conductor must be crafted from various parts. Finally, we know what to look for. With my weapon on a plus 22, we once again head back to the Arisen domain. It's here in the very depths that we find one of those important crafting materials. We also use another monolith to reach the fourth and final Archon, who died in approximately 3 seconds. Yep, we're doing quite a lot of damage at this point. But hey, that's all 4 Archon Knights done and dealt with. We sit with the Indian man next to a new fire, this time in the observatory. We then meet with a new NPC around this golden area that doesn't have much to say. Remember him, because while he doesn't do much now, he will be highly important for the true ending. In fact, this entire area has nothing majorly important to it. Instead, there are these 4 keycards that unlock a major elevator up to the boss. You need to explore 4 separate sections of the Arisen domain to find them all. While doing so, we found a pretty neat puzzle that unlocks another magic hand. You drop down a large hole using platforms, to then meet a path that drops when you walk on it. You're supposed to take the right blocks that don't drop, or you can simply get naked and run so quickly that the blocks can't drop fast enough. One has to assume this isn't the intended way of solving said puzzle. Making our way to the top hallway section of this golden domain, we run and jump onto an area that doesn't look like you'd make it. Hidden behind this large golden head statue is one winged halberd, a spear that is arguably the second best weapon in the game. Spears are really good, as we'll find out later. With all 4 credentials activated, we ascend up, where we can speak with the Arisen themselves. As far as my memory serves me, the Golden People, or Arisen, serve Nemudis. The Demons serve the fire boss we already defeated, and the Thespians serve another main boss we haven't reached yet. All 3 are fighting for control, while the AI plans to beat them all once we bring back our data. Once again, we can use another monolith to speak with this cosmic being. He grants another magic item if you take out demons. But unfortunately, with one of the 3 bosses defeated, the enemies around the space station switch. So it's very hard to find actual demon enemies, as the Thespian have taken over much more of the region. So forget that, we're just gonna fight him. Which resulted in yet another humiliating death only 5 seconds in. Because of course it did. By now, we were well set up for the difficulty bump, so our damage is quite good. But of all of the bosses, this one can be more of a nuisance. His attacks build up radiation, a status that deals damage over time. But not just normal damage. No, any radiation damage reduces your maximum HP, slowly bringing you down to 1-hit territory on top of finishing you itself if you don't cure it. Some armor sets are highly resistant, and there's a healing item that does cure radiation instead of health. We never use it though, because you can't have both the heal and the cure on at the same time. Which seems really silly to me, because how does radiation cure help me if I now can't heal? Not really sure. The boss mainly sits still and meditates, having his soul burst forth to attack you. The AoEs need to be dodged as if they were a wave across the entire arena, and various small black holes will be spawned in to send out energy. I got lucky enough to have him swap aggro off of me after getting radiated. With my big sword's big damage, we outlived the radiation and were victorious. Answered the challenge of undisturbed Defas Nomundis. With that, our next goal was to take out the last of the 3 main bosses. Heading into the Thespians region once again, it was time to clear this area out. These aliens are much more similar to something like the Flood from Halo. They come in weird blobby shapes, can simply be hands attacking you, and kinda goop up the places they stay in. Underneath where they guard, you can parkour all the way into the main security console. Using an access code, we lift the state of emergency and return main power back to the station. With that major quest step marked off, we drop down into a dark pit of hellish proportion. facing the Master of Puppets. This one is more of a pain than anything else. You have a significantly smaller arena that's very dark. The boss has an extremely erratic moveset that seems almost random at times. He also summons in minions and can one-shot you with specific attacks. Oh boy, did we have really frustrating deaths against this guy. Our primary strategy was to use the Winged Spear. Its primary ability lets you throw it. But for some unknown reason, the spear throw deals 3 times more damage than any other throwing weapon in the game. It's the only one that can be spammed to actually see yellow damage. Then the melee attacks on it are super quick with high damage. I mean, this really is probably the second best weapon in the game, just because it performs in every single way. It is a weird case where the boss does far less than the other 2 major encounters. Mainly, you need to watch out for his stomps, which cover a wide area, stay moving, and attack after he rushes forward. Answer to the challenge of the Master of Puppets. Back at the Arisen Council, you can do something interesting. These guys can somehow bring all 3 main bosses back to life. Odd, to say the least, but we will need to bring them all back in order to accomplish something unique in the second section of DLC. So yeah, all 3 bosses are back alive. If we now go back to the large demon fire boss and go underneath his arena, the strange NPC from before will be waiting. With an item we found for him, he completes this strange cult-like ritual, opening up a portal into which he vanishes. We have essentially helped him return to his master, of whom we haven't quite met yet. Back near the very start of the game is a small hidden enclosure where you can walk out into space. There's a set of armor called Broken EVA Suit. You can repair this at a crafting station. It grants oxygen to you in space and protects against radiation that space also causes you, though it turns out you must have the stats for it or the radiation protection doesn't work. So off to the DLC for a few upgrades. The second part of the DLC can be entered by going through the Arisen domain. Off to the right side is a door that takes you to the Dominion Baths. There's even a rubber ducky Easter egg sitting in a corner if you don't run by too quickly. And I'll be honest, this section of the DLC is massive. There are troops with guns guarding every hallway. Turrets, flamethrowers, snipers, and plain gunners sit in wait protecting their boss. There's a lot of really cool guns to collect and use. About halfway in, you'll get shot at by a stationary turret. Using a secret wall, you can sneak around the back and hack it. Does this help you out in any way? No. Will it ever shoot anything? No, because you already killed the enemies in that room. Is it cool? Yeah, kinda. Pretty nifty achievement, I thought. Unfortunately, it is a little too obvious that this DLC is unfinished. Hellpoint was a pretty niche enough game to begin with that we were really surprised it even got a DLC. It's kind of a situation similar to Dark Souls 3 DLC, where the bosses are one tiny part of this gigantic inflated DLC that you largely skip through. I think all the loot is awesome, but it drags out a bit with no major or interesting encounters. Up at the next checkpoint, we speak to an NPC and join his faction. This has something to do with PvP. For the life of me, I don't know what. Like, new random invader enemies will spawn around the world and reward you with items that you can then bring back to this fellow. But not much is known about it from what I can find. Behind him is an extremely missable wall that when broken leads to the Congregator's Staff, the weapon of those golden guys, which looks awesome, but sadly doesn't deal any damage. We did a lot of testing and build swapping around and couldn't quite get it to even be usable. Not sure what's up with that. Well, at last we can drop down and face the second of the 3 DLC bosses, Arnold V. Berghauer, a mad scientist with several troublesome attacks. We aren't really a fan of this boss. First off, I was now using the Archon Spear, best weapon in the game with a ranged spear throw. Love this thing. Second, there used to be a really weird bug that if you were above normal difficulty, this boss would be unkillable. He simply took no damage at all. When the DLC first came out, we had a real bad time here. Thankfully, the devs did come back to fix that bug, and we can confirm the fight actually works now, but it doesn't feel all that great. Everything he does is an AoE. Problem with AoEs in this game is it is never quite obvious where the hitbox begins or ends. 9 times out of 10, it's just gonna hit you unless you dash backwards 3 times. His only melee attack will heal him if it hits you, as it's a needle stab with his right arm. Overall, the worst part is trying to use melee, but being pushed back as he starts spamming grenades. It's also way too easy to get his gas built up on you, which equates to like a burn effect. In another game, I think this would be great, but Hellpoint is just the right amount of jank, where fights requiring this much precise attacking and dodging feels bad. At half health, he'll transform into a multi-clawed abomination, to best describe it. Now his attacks are even worse, but he doesn't attack as often, so a bit better and a bit worse. Well, the Archon Spear's final ability is completely overpowered. It shoots a magical blast forward at medium range that deals monstrous damage. That right there was able to clean him up very quickly. Defeated the Mad Scientist. Off to the side in a dark hallway is the entrance to the final section of this DLC. Part 2 of the second area, if you will. But before that, we have a few things to wrap up. Underneath the entire space station is an area where you can exit and complete a lot of platforming. It's terrifying with the drop being into infinite space. The area is freezing, has no air and fully radiated. Thankfully, we had our full suit to keep us safe now. The frustrating thing about Hellpoint is that it's a real maze at times. This entire outside area is required for the true ending, as it holds a hidden part for the architect. But for the life of us, we could not find that part. Dying to jumps and goof-ups on my part, it was tedious. Mainly because my brother has done this before, but he couldn't quite remember where the tower was that we needed. And I am directionally impaired entirely, so trying to find my ways, like, let's just say it ain't happening. Eventually, with enough trial and error, we made our way down the sketchy jump after sketchy jump. At the very bottom, we snatch up one nervous wiring. All that effort for a tiny electronic part. Sounds about right. Oh, but that's not all. We also gain the Aegis armor set, the more defensive spacesuit that lets you tank better than any other. Full black and all menacing. Now that is worth the trip. Okay, let's take down the secret boss in this open space station. The Transporter is one of those 3 weird aliens from before, except this version is a boss. I like to think that these rare aliens have nothing to do with the rest of the game. They simply found their way onto the space station after drifting in space, and are now walking nightmares to anything they come across. You get to see the flamethrower in action as my brother swapped over to guns because he just couldn't help himself, while I had on the heater spear. Not crazy in any way really, but you can buff its own melee damage. So with good reach, it puts in really solid work. Your biggest trouble here is the limited space. They really put him in a small box and said, good luck. The big armor was doing its job though, and burn from that flamethrower, while not broken or anything, was consistent and really nice for overtime damage. One of the more entertaining boss fights, because he is a threat, but not constantly attacking every second. Defeated the Transporter, and doing so rewards you with the Marine Rifle, so that's kinda cool. With all the materials required, we craft a mass AI patch conductor and hand it over to the architect. He will now head to the interface and wait for us there. Awesome, but we aren't done with our main adventure yet. In the Thespian area, we can run towards the far right as soon as you enter and drop down to sit Indian style for the 3rd time. We do so once again in the Arisen domain. Then, in the same area where we first met the man, we climb up the library and meet him for the last time. With the full quest completed, a cutscene plays. The Indian man stands up and jumps off the edge of the cliff. Okay then. But soon after, a giant space creature flies upward and out into space. I have to assume the thing ate him. Maybe the guy was ready to be done and finally at peace. I don't know. And clearly, my character has no idea either, as he seemed very surprised by the strange encounter. Helped the old man. Before we can finish out the game, we need to go on one final side quest. The side quest for the Mama Slug. In the Dominion Baz, there's a super extremely hidden boss called the Mama Slug. It took us over an hour just to find this thing, and that's after we already knew what to look for. Basically, you need to run through over half the DLC area. Then once you're in a cave about to enter a space door of sorts, look left and attack the wall. That area has the boss in it. Oh, but it gets worse. With no checkpoint, you now need to walk around a maze of tunnels for about 10 to 15 minutes. One thing that was cool that we did find down here was a new skin for our Omnicube robot. Enjoyed that moment, but after this is a very long walk for the boss. Spend another 10 minutes walking around because you got lost, and finally you see a boss door at the end of a hallway. Don't die, because it's an hour walk back here. No joke. This takes the cake for worst run back in Souls-like history. To make things even worse, I had on a crowbar at the time instead of my spear, and you can only swap your upgrade ship at the main hub, so I was stuck with this super weak crowbar throw, though at least it was ranged. Philomica's Queen. Thankfully, it stayed aggroed on my brother 90% of the time, so I walked up and whacked the thing every time it moved, then threw crowbars. It shoots out acid and tries to headbutt you. Under normal circumstances, this would have been a great fight, but with the wrong weapon, a 45-minute run back at least, and us being fed up with this area, we were ready to just win and move on. Hey, at least I got to goof off with the crowbar for a bit. Always a funny gimmick weapon these games like to throw in. Defeated the Mother Slug. Heading through that tunnel beyond the Mad Scientist, we were sent underneath the Arisen domain. Only footsteps away is a now open door to the core. Not much to see here as there are hardly any enemies in this place, and it's the shortest bit by far. Behind an already broken wall, we collect the pure white suit. Throwing it on for the achievement, it is indeed very fashionable. Also has insane stat requirements though, which was surprising. Scaling down a large reactor and shooting down an elevator, or at least the equivalent of an elevator, probably more accurate to say a ladder. We come across Fear. Okay, so how do I explain Fear? They warn you not to fight this boss beforehand, as he is uniquely tied to the main game. For every one of the 3 main bosses that is still alive, Fear gains a buff. The idea is to slowly decrease his power by completing the main game. Well, there's an achievement to beat him at full power, which means leaving all 3 gods alive so he has monstrous health and bonkers damage. Remember, we did kill all 3, but we're able to revive them, so this should be achievable. Well, we finally had to lower the difficulty. After the entire game being on hard mode essentially, this was impossible. 20 minutes went by and we only had him at half health. At this time, he does a Gatling attack that instantly kills you even in full maxed out armor. The time needed to complete this on top of the effort just wasn't worth it. Using the opposite kind of effigy, we lowered the difficulty back down to normal. And even then, this thing still took forever. Fear is, I don't know, what's the best way to describe him? He's a ghast, or a beast created from the core's energy. His fight is by far the most jank, and if anything, just silly. We swapped over to the nano heals so we could just tank through damage while still healing constantly. With 5 heals and our leech, we had more than enough to use. Archon's spear was the best for its range damage as the thing can fly at times. And you're likely looking at the screen here, what is this? Tons of AoEs, projectiles, the thing has infinite health. I mean, the idea is here, but it clearly isn't fully fleshed out. Heck, on our final attempt, the blob he turns into wasn't even centered on its own hitbox. He turns into a spider and lasers, so you can't even hit him at all. I mean, this is not a great boss fight. But the goal is just to beat him at full power for the achievement, and we did in fact manage to beat him at full power, getting 2 achievements in 1. Though I have to say, for all the cool things Hellpoint has going for it, Fear doesn't put its best foot forward. The DLC NPC at our main hub can turn all 3 boss souls into weapons. One is a gauntlet needle, another is a fast sword that creates blood pools, healing you when enemies are inside. And Fear's weapon is both of those, while also the 2-handed magic blade we found from the 7 Deadly Sins puzzle. It's able to swap between all 3 versions. Oh, but it also swaps into the Archon spear, as even the devs knew it was the best weapon in the game. So a pretty cool idea, I think. 4 weapons in 1, while having all their abilities at the same time. Before we can go get all the endings, we do need to collect all 66 golden coins. It is intended for you to find each and every one in your world. However, there's a convenient workaround, especially since you're locked out of one of the coins early on in the game by pressing a button too soon. The coins count in co-op, so I simply had my brother leave and then joined his world. Since he has no progress there, we played through the game collecting his coins. Once we had 66 in total, I left back to my world, and after a few seconds, it popped up. Found the 66 coins. Very nice to have this method, as again, finding secrets in this game is not easy with an unfinished wiki. Finally, it has come time to talk about Hellpoint's ending, or really I should say endings. Unlike most Souls-likes, you don't need to play the game more than once to get all endings, though you will need to get the true ending first for that to be the case. Going back and speaking to the AI directly after the first boss fight, he will now accept you up to his domain, since you have enough data. Up there, you'll notice it's very bright as we made sure to turn on the power to this specific location. Dead spawn lie all around us, as one who had survived is finished at our hand. Before opening the door, you must speak with the architect on your left. He's quite excited to leave this dead space station. We must keep the AI busy while he hacks in. And this couldn't get any more ominous. Jumping onto the platform, we speak with the AI who spawned us into existence. He asks for our data, but we must refuse his request and keep our data to ourselves. He now becomes hostile and attempts to take the data back by force. We are, of course, on the normal difficulty now, so it didn't take long for us to win. With the Archon's spear throw, he hardly got to even try and fight us. Kept your data and defeated the interface. With the machine now dead, it opens up a portal off of the space station. This is because of what the architect did while we distracted the interface. Helped the architect repair the interface. But you see, that's not all. The portal takes us outside space and time, into the very nothingness that exists. It is here that we find the source of all of our problems, a being known as the Sentient. He is in control. He is the true power beyond the black hole we are trapped in. The prodigal spawn we helped out before also appears. He's found his true master and attempts to help him take our life. It's an interesting fight to say the least. You can't see anything, you're fighting in a void, and the main boss wipes the whole arena with massive AoEs. The prodigal was blocking all my damage, so instead I moved towards the eternal being and attacked him. This gave my brother a chance to finish off the smaller fellow, letting us throw some spears and tank damage with nanobots. If we had not been on normal difficulty by now, then this would have gone poorly. He's kind of a mess and deals lots of damage. With one final spear throw though, he is defeated. Vanquished the Sentient and destroyed the prodigal spawn. Control is now given over to us as we become the Sentient. The prodigal spawn is defeated for good, and whatever the heck just happened is finally over. The one true ending to Hellpoint. I think we became the source of power and helped the architect escape, while defeating all the evil on this station. Spawning back into the New Game Plus cycle, we are alone, stuck in an endless loop, but at least now we are in control. Reached a more challenging parallel universe. Well, outside of all the confusion, that was pretty cool. All we need to do now is defeat the first boss in NG+. As you can see, that wasn't much of a problem for us. Speaking with the AI this time around, we already have the required data, as you keep your data through each NG cycle. Instantly, we can reach the upper area, though now it's dark as we didn't turn on the power or help out the architect. This time, we'll get the second ending, merely making our way to the AI once again and again refuse to give up your data. He'll become hostile and force you to put him down for the second time, though he did decide to try a bit harder the second time around, which I can respect. Another portal appears for us to enter, except this time we get a game over without fighting the secret final boss. Turned off the lights from start to end. This actually is granted from not using your Omnicube light at all for an entire playthrough, which is easy to do when the game is over in minutes. This time when we start NG+2, the prodigal spawn is here to meet us. He explains that our goal will be met one way or another, in this reality or the next. He will reach his master and defeat us. Obviously, we are doing the endings backwards here, as you are supposed to see this and realize there's more to the game. Find him in this world and then you get to fight him like we did before. And yet, there's still one more ending remaining. Before doing so, however, we need to summon a little friend. Inputting a set of controller inputs creates an Easter egg. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. And it spawns in a small alien lion as your pet. He'll follow you around and simply be cute. I always loved when older games had Easter eggs like this, so it was pretty cool to do. Also, the little dude attacks air and yawns, so it's kind of a highlight. But back to more important things. Get to the first boss, defeat him in only a few spear throws, speak with the AI, and move up to the higher section. Now when the AI asks for your data, you simply hand it over. No boss fight this time. Instead, he absorbs your data into himself and you lose. Did as he asked and ended it peacefully. The spawn, us, is in an endless cycle, gathering info for the AI, starting over and gathering all the info again. The only way to break this cycle is with the architect's help. Join him and take over reality, so no one else can control you or this space station anymore. And that, my friends, is 100% of Hellpoint, a very interesting game. Yes, it is quite jank, in many ways, especially in the DLC that is clearly unfinished. Yeah, attacking enemies and not feeling much impact feels bad, but all the bones are here, a unique world and setting that I've never seen before. Sci-fi weapons with alien bosses to take down, magic, guns, melee abilities, all this stuff is epic. Exploring a space station and finding all kinds of secrets is one heck of a good time. Not to mention, trying to piece together the storyline with each new run feels interactive and keeps you interested. Hellpoint is a game I can never recommend because of all of its flaws, but it's also a game I will never regret playing. In fact, this is the very first Souls-like I ever played when I got my laptop set up years ago. I owe it a lot for getting me into this game genre, honestly, and while it might not be the best of the best, it was a very fun game. Oh, and another fun thing, the main menu says Hellpoint, the name of the game, but if you try and record it with OBS, the word changes to Hexspot. No clue why, but it is pretty funny. If you did enjoy the video, do me a favor and consider liking, maybe even commenting down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.